This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good evening, Rabbi. We're learning the Sefer Shaarei Teshuva. It's already the 16th of Elul tonight. So in preparation for the Yom Hadin, we are embarking on our journey of Teshuva. We're learning about the seventh ingredient of Teshuva, which is Kniya b'chol lev, humility with all of one's heart, which is a way of gaining Hashem's favor. Hashem doesn't want gifts. Hashem doesn't want sacrifice, human sacrifice. But by a person humbling their heart in front of Hashem, that is a way of gaining the favor of Shemayim. So now, in Ois Chavav on page 36, Rabbeinu Yona tells us that one of the reasons why the Baal Teshuva is responsible to humble himself is because he needs to remove the midos that caused him to sin in the first place. And gaiva, arrogance, is one of the roots of sin. Arrogance really fuels the Yetzer Hara. In Ois Chav Zayin, Rabbeinu Yona says, "Hagaiva misabeves kama averos." Gaiva causes many sins, and it causes the Yetzer Hara to become bigger and stronger in a person. And aside from the fact that Gaiva causes many sins, Gaiva itself is a sin. Okay, and that's what we learned in Ois Chav Zayin. So tonight,
where does Gaiva come from?
Where does Gaiva come from? Gaiva comes from many sources. Sometimes it could come from lack of self-esteem, where the Mesilas Yesharim says that sometimes a person feels empty and unfulfilled and unaccomplished, and in order to make up for that, he pumps up his own ego to compensate for his feeling of unworthiness. So even though you might think, no, a person who feels has low self-esteem wouldn't be arrogant, but Mesilas Yesharim says it's like an empty pushka. An empty pushka, you put in 1 or 2 coins, it makes a lot of noise. You pack it with coins, doesn't make any noise. So too with a person. If a person is filled with accomplishment, you don't hear about it. Person is unworthy, so now everybody has to hear about all the little, the few little things the person did. Okay? So in Ois Chav Ches, Rabbeinu Yona gives us another aspect, another dimension of the importance of humility in one's heart. This is on page 38. V'oid chayev ba'al teshuva lehikana u'lekayim olav lehisnaheg al hadarach she'amra b'sinu zachorin levracha. The Baal Teshuva is also obligated to humble himself and to fulfill the direction of what our Chazal direct a person, and that is v'havei shval ruach l'fnei kol adam. Person should be of lowly spirit before everybody. And what will a person achieve by that? V'yasig mizeh shelo yichas. From this midah of humbling oneself before others, person will be able to overcome their anger. Because why does a person get angry? They feel they're entitled to a certain treatment and certain service and certain rights. And a person gets angry because it comes from a feeling of entitlement, which is gaiva. And if a person humbles himself, lo yakbid al chaverov, he will not be makbid on his friend. He will not be particular. He will not stand up for his rights. He will not demand what he feels he's entitled to. Someone who humbles himself will not pay attention to every little thing that people tell him. Somebody who's very arrogant, if somebody insults them even in the slightest way, wow, how dare you, how dare you, how dare you. Someone who's humble lets things slide more. He rolls with the punches. And, says Rabbeinu Yona, by not paying attention to what people say, lahavir al midoisav, he's able to overlook his midos. In other words, he's able to overcome his instincts, and by doing so, ma'avira mizel leskapra al avinoisav. What Hashem will do is Hashem will overlook his sins. So, if somebody says something to you that you don't like, you feel it's beneath your dignity, beneath your honor, and you really want to say something and punch the person in the face, restrain yourself and say to yourself, I'm going to overlook my honor, I'm going to overcome my tendencies, and in lieu of that, the Rebbeinu Shalom will overlook some of my chatoim. Like Chazal say, Hamaver al midoisav ma'avirim loy al kol peshav. Someone who overlooks his midos, the Rebbeinu Shalom will overlook their sins. Mida keneged mida, measure for measure, quid pro quo, right? Mida keneged mida. And then Rabbeinu Yona says, perhaps 5 of the most important words in the whole Sefer. V'zeh hesach tikva nichbad me'oid. And this is a very honorable opening of hope. V'zeh hesach tikva nichbad me'oid. This is an opening of hope which is very admirable. What does he mean? What does Rabbeinu Yona mean? Why is this an opening of hope? Rabbeinu Yona is telling us something which is very important. According to Rabbeinu Yona, not like the Rambam that there are 4 ingredients in Tshuva, there are 20 ingredients in Tshuva. To have a complete Tshuva, there are 20 ingredients. You need 20 different types of detergent and bleach. And that's quite a Herculean task then. To amass all the various ingredients of Tshuva, who could say that they fulfilled Rabbeinu Yona's Tshuva? So a lot of things that need to be done. And then a person feels a little bit worried that everybody has Averos on their plate, and who could really say that they fulfilled the obligation of Tshuva, especially according to Rabbeinu Yona. Says Rabbeinu Yona, I'm going to give you a shortcut. I'm going to give you an opening of hope. Lest you think, if I don't do all 20, forget it. I'm going to give you a shortcut. And the shortcut is like this. Next time somebody says something to you that you don't like, that you feel is beneath your honor, beneath your dignity, keep your mouth closed, let it slide, and say to yourself, I have now been given the great opportunity of doing tshuva, yesh kaina ilamai b'sha'achas. Rabbeinu Yona has a list of 20 ingredients, but this is shortcut to tshuva. I'm going to overlook my insult, and in lieu of that, Hashem will overlook my sins. Shortcut. It's an opening of hope. It's a ray of hope. For those who feel that the classic road to tshuva is so difficult and overwhelming, this is a wondrous opening of hope. V'nemar, and Rabbeinu Yona brings the proof to this. Yitain be'afar pihu. If you put your mouth in the dust, ula yesh tikva, perhaps there is hope. Yitain l'makehu lechi. Give your cheek to the smiter, to the hitter. Yizva, what?
That's a Christian thing.
No, that's turn the other cheek. This is give your cheek. Don't turn the cheek. Give your cheek to be hit. Yizba b'cherpa, be satiated with shame. In other words, by a person humbling themselves and overlooking their insult and not paying attention to their elbowing, to their aluva, to their being insulted, Rebbeinu Shalom mida k'neged mida will be maver al kol shav, and we have the promise of Rabbeinu Yona, b'zeh pesach tikva nichbada. This is a very admirable, respectable, wondrous opening of hope. So this is the final aspect of the 7th ingredient of tshuva, humility. But this point, this specific detail, is really a ray of light in the whole topic of tshuva. Now, this ingredient, the 7th ingredient, is humility in one's heart. We're going to learn next. The next ingredient, the 8th ingredient, is the humility in action. And that is doing actions that are indicative of a shiflos, of hachna, of anivos, speaking in a low voice, in lowering your eyes, and so forth, in a way where a person is acting in a humble way. But these are really 2 distinct aspects of tshuva. One is humility in one's heart, and the second is humility in action. And why would it be separated into 2 different categories? And why is humility in one's heart, why does that precede humility in action? For a very important reason. Because Mesilas Yesharim says that if a person would remain arrogant in their heart, they cannot be humble in action. Why? Imagine like this. A guy walks around, he feels I'm the greatest guy in the world, I'm the biggest tzaddik in the world. And he starts lowering his eye and rubbing his hands together, and he sits all the way in the back, and he thinks he's a big anav. But since in his heart, he's still a Baal Gaiva, all of the actions that he's doing are really acts of a Gaiva. Because he's thinking to himself, everyone look at me, look at what a big anav I am. So the first thing a person needs to do is have the humility in one's life. And only after that can a person have humility in action. But if a person would start with humility in action, then there is no such thing. Because if in one's heart a person feels arrogant, all action would just be an expression of those feelings of arrogance. Okay, so Mitzvah Hashem, we will see that detail next time, God willing.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.